shockingly, in the United States, the person who is mentioned more than any other person, Donald Trump, no investigations. Howard Lutnick, still Secretary of Commerce. Elon Musk, the greatest donor, biggest donor of Donald Trump in 2024, nothing happened to him. Somehow in America, Ellie, no, forget resignations, no investigation. Leonard, we're just responding in real time to being apparently called the Wolfpack. Michael Cohen says we're part of the Wolfpack. We'll get into that later. Don't worry. But the Wolfpack, I'm like, really? I'm the Wolfpack? Is that from the Hangover movies? I don't drink. But we'll talk about the Wolfpack and Michael Cohen, all that stuff. But first of all, Ellie Leonard, you know her, you love her. If you don't, you have to subscribe to her, The Panic Writer. She is a professional transcriber who used those superhero skills to comb through all the Epstein files and emails, and she's still digging through all of it. And what she does is then she categorizes it, right? So she goes, okay, here's when Steve Bannon is mentioned, Cliff Notes. Here's all the stuff about JP Morgan. Here's all the stuff about Trump. But, well, probably going to need like 6 blogs for Trump because Trump, Bernie Raskin, has been mentioned more than 1 million times. In fact, Trump is a person mentioned more times than Epstein. And so real quick, just to set the table, and then we're going to give it over to Ellie, we'll go back and forth, is I haven't talked to Ellie since the Pam Bondi spectacle, the Pam Bondi, what would you call that? Distraction, gaslighting?
Dumpster fire? I don't know.
Dumpster fire, where the Attorney General of the nation clearly, Ellie is engaged in a massive cover-up where she has an audience of one, Donald Trump, and she's not the Attorney General of the United States of America. I refuse to call her that. She is Donald Trump's defense attorney and his prosecutor. And Ellie, Epstein files are making heads roll in Europe. We know Mandelson, who was the UK ambassador to America, he's out. We know Keir Starmer's chief of staff, he resigned. We know Starmer's on his back legs, and he didn't even meet with Epstein. And we know that there's criminal investigations in the UK. But Ellie, shockingly, in the United States, the person who is mentioned more than any other person, Donald Trump, no investigations. Howard Lutnick, still Secretary of Commerce. Elon Musk, the greatest donor, biggest donor of Donald Trump in 2024, nothing happened to him. Somehow in America, Ellie, no, forget resignations, no investigations.
Right. No. And if you do see people go down, guess who it'll be first? It'll be the women. I mean,
it's happening in Goldman Sachs.
Right. And it's not that they're not guilty, but it's just, that is what we do here. We take down the women first. Who's the only person in prison? It's Ghislaine Maxwell. Should she be there? Yes, she should. But like a lot of people should be in prison at this point. And it was such a shit show like that. I was just saying in my last pod that I was doing, like I really hope that the sound was turned off because I was in the live stream while I was watching it. I was just like grunting and like, like it was so ridiculous that I have to wonder. I wish there were just some really clear-headed, no pride MAGA who would be willing to talk about their feelings after watching that, because it had to be very uncomfortable. Like this is the biggest bluff calling of MAGA of anything that could happen, is us saying, you're right, there was child trafficking. You're right, this did happen. This is what you fought for. Here we are. Here's the evidence. Here's 3.5 million pages that prove that it happened. And now your people are trying to actively stop it from being investigated. Like that's got to be incredibly uncomfortable. That has to be a gut check for a lot of Americans who voted for Donald Trump. And I would really love to talk to somebody who is very open-minded, who watched those hearings from the other side and ask them what they thought about them. Like, how did you walk away? What did you think?
I've been following, so because I'm a masochist and I follow right-wing media because I think it's important, because right-wing media then what's considered fringe then becomes laundered through corporate media, and unfortunately Overton window shifts. But if you've been watching on Twitter, the Nazi site, a few Trumpers, I'm talking about hardcore Trumpers, were so disgusted by the Trump cover-up and by Pam Bondi's appearance. And this is not me speaking from a partisan lens. I really looked at her appearance, and I thought the same thing as you, Ellie. Like, how can anyone walk away from there and say this went well? for the Trump administration. And it hasn't. Some of these people are like, you promised us that you'd go after the pedophiles. You're covering it up. You promised that you release the Epstein files. It's a big cover up, right? And if you look at the latest poll numbers, the AP poll, Nordac poll came out. He has an approval rating of 36%, which is just disastrous. Negative double digits on immigration, which used to be his strongest issue. Negative double digits on the economy. But really, like in the negative plus 30s, right? In the negative 30s, excuse me. Yeah. It's the Epstein files. It's the handling of the Epstein files. And so he knows he's already drowning. Yeah. And then Bonnie then comes, and her appearance here, I don't know if you saw, I know you saw, but her staff had written out insults for each Democratic member, and she couldn't even memorize it. So Raskin would come on, she'd be like, excuse me.
Must read.
Yeah. Thomas Massey, you are a hack. You are failing. I
just can't imagine that Jasmine Crockett had a little, list of insults. I just like, it's just off the top of her head, but that's the difference. That's so gone.
But to your point, I think the more and more and more you press, the more and more, the more this is indefensible. And you see that reflected in the pollings. Obviously, my wife said something that I mentioned you earlier today with my wife, because I was talking to my wife. She was like, well, what are you talking about today? I was like, the Epstein files and this and that. And she was just asking me, sincerely, my wife's a good soul. She goes, but like, didn't the people who went there, don't they have kids? Didn't they see these girls as human? I'm like, oh, Ellie asks that as well. She goes,
that every day.
Yeah, like, and I said to Sarah, they did have kids. So my wife, because she's a kind, rational, non-psychopathic human, Ellie, she was like, but then like, did they just not see these girls as human? And I'm like, yes.
Yes. No, like there was people abusing children and then going home. Like you think of Prince Andrew. His claim was always he was not where he was. He wasn't abusing anybody. He was at a children's pizza party or whatever, which is a load of crap. But
it was like
these people would abuse children as young as 12 and 13 and then go home and tuck their kids in bed at night, right? Unless they're Howard Lutnick and then he had a horde of nannies to do it for him. But like these people somehow couldn't see that these children, because, and I believe part of that is a wealth gap thing, right? They would go home. They were wealthy men, and they would go home to their wealthy families and their wealthy, picket fences. And they didn't see these kids who were like abandoned by their parents or in foster care or poor and living in trailer parks. They didn't see them as human. They saw them as just like means to an end and party favors. And they couldn't look at a 13-year-old girl who came from a life of poverty and recognize their own children who came from a life of wealth. They couldn't see that.
And I want to focus on the survivors for a bit, because you have been decoding a journal on your on Panicked Writer, and Jamie Raskin yesterday said the person who's mentioned the most is Donald Trump, and he said the victims, one of them is young as aged 9, and then you saw some of the survivors, folks. If you haven't seen the clips, so the survivors were there in the hearing. And Pam Bondi refused to even look at them, which I would have said
felt simple.
Like, bro, politics 101, just look at them and nod. She didn't even look at them. Talk to us about this journal that you have been decoding.
Okay, so we found a journal, and we didn't find it. Like, again, Substackers bring us the most amazing things. But it's also something that had been out in the world, hidden in the files. We have a journal that is all together in 4 parts. It's 116 pages. And there are text versions of this journal online, like on Reddit and different places where you can read the text of it. But like, I think it's really important to see something in its original form. It was made up of newspaper clippings and quotations and all sorts of things that she had stuck in from different things that she had clipped out. And after some research and finding where these quotes came from and pictures of items in the journal, we figured out that this journal started at about 1999. There was a birthday card that we could research back. It was from Carter Cards from 1999, and it was her 16th birthday. So she was somebody who was born probably 83, 84, somewhere around there. In this journal, it is some of the darkest stuff that I have read thus far. It has a lot to do with child loss and being forced to be pregnant multiple times, which then, alludes to the to these stories that we thought were very conspiratorial originally about baby farming and this idea of creating a perfect race, which is very ironic considered, Jeffrey Epstein's background. He's a Jewish man, but in these journals, she talks about how he was trying to combine his genius musical genes with young, white, blonde, blue-eyed, thin, beautiful girls. And he was creating children with them and pushing them out into the world. And, this girl is dealing with grief on a child level and not understanding why things are happening to her. She's losing babies through miscarriage, through abortion. She is having babies, and Ghislaine Maxwell is covering her face so she can't see the baby being born, and she can see her baby's feet through Ghislaine Maxwell's fingers. And then at the end, she's allowed to hold her baby for 15 minutes and feed it before somebody named Mr. M takes the baby away in a car with women and drives it away, and she never gets to see her child again. And then going through the process of her grieving for the next however many years that she's writing in this journal. This journal is all in code. And it had been decoded, again, online. People had decoded. It's very simple code. But it had been decoded, but then kind of in text format. So like a lot of people were not really reading it. They were seeing, these text threads on Reddit or whatever. And I think something that's really important is you keep something in its original format. So if you have a coded journal, you take the journal and you decode it, but then you put it back in its original format. So we can see these quotations, we can see the color, we can see what she was, there's a lot of emotion in the things that she was posting. And in this, there were two things that were really important.
Well, can I ask you this one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Regina is asking, how can we figure out if this is a true allegation or a true story?
Sure. I think there's a lot of credibility in the time that things are presented. So when you have things that are accusations or documentation that come prior to the years when we were all talking about Epstein, now this came from most of it comes from prior to 2003, when, I don't know about you, I did not know who Jeffrey Epstein was in 2003. I'm sure some people did in New York City, but he wasn't a big household name. When things come out of a period of time when we didn't really know about him, we weren't talking about him, that lends to the credibility of what we're reading. And I do know that there's a lot more to dig into this journal, but there are descriptions of things that were happening at the time that we can then trace back to, things that were happening that we know that are verified. There are a few things that I found very, very interesting, because the DOJ didn't bother to redact this journal whatsoever because they didn't decode it like the internet decoded it. So they were like, I can't read this, but I'm not seeing any bad guys in here. We're just going to put it in the files. Well, it was filled with people and they didn't redact it, which is very helpful for us. But something that was very important we're talking about, she talks about escaping Zorro Ranch, which is the place that has not been investigated. It's his biggest property. Escaping Zorro with all her belongings in a trash bag and trying to get away with a friend in a car in the middle of the night. With these babies, there was apparently a house on South Ocean Boulevard, which is in Palm Beach, and it's called Billionaire Row, which is where Mar-a-Lago is. There was a house on South Ocean Boulevard that they would bring in a midwife, and that's where the girls would go to have babies. And so she describes this house, but she didn't know the midwife. She didn't know who any of the people were, but she would be taken there to have babies. There's one part that I found really interesting because Mar-a-Lago is mentioned several times, and Zev does a really good breakdown about what that means and what's being described, Zev Shalev. But there's a quote from Ivana Trump in here, and this is when this girl is still a teenager, mind you, but she cut out a quote from Vanity Fair or somewhere that was talking about, Ivana Trump was saying that she'd been talking to Princess Di, and Princess Di had said, Ivana, you went through your divorce with so much dignity. I hope that I can go through mine with the same amount of dignity. And this is what the girl wrote in code next to that quote. She said, "Doesn't this lady know you can't have dignity if you've been with him? I know I have none." And she's referring to Donald Trump. And she's a child. The main thing to take away from this journal is the list of people she names, the perpetrators, because not everybody has been described before. Do you want me to list them?
List them.
All right, here we go. Okay, so there was two sports guys named Dan Snyder and Joe Gibbs. They owned sports teams.
Yes.
The academics were Lawrence Krauss from ASU, Marvin Minsky from MIT, and Martin Novak from Harvard. In politics, she described a guy named Bob Goodlatte. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his Goodlatte. He's a Republican from Virginia. George Mitchell was just a Democrat from Maine, and Bill Clinton, which is a Democrat from Arkansas, former president. She mentions Harvey Weinstein. She mentions philanthropists Joseph E. Robert and Jill Sorensen, his wife. In industry, she mentioned a whole bunch of AOL execs. This is all taking place, a lot of this stuff in Virginia. So she mentioned a lot of execs out of AOL, which is located in Virginia. She mentioned Ted Leonsis, Steve Case, and George Bradenberg. She mentioned Alan Dershowitz. She mentioned Jez Staley, Leon Black, Jean-Luc Brunel, Prince Andrew, and she also mentioned Larry Summers. And then she has kind of your typical Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, but then there was someone called a Mrs. Vicky. There was an old French woman who was the midwife, and there was a Mr. M who would take the babies away. And all those people were unredacted in this journal.
Listen, folks, some of those names, they keep coming up again and again and again and again. When Virginia Giuffre made the same claim, she said they passed me around like a platter of fruit. I had to escape. Virginia Giuffre was the first person to name Prince Andrew. They spent years trying to defame her, call her a liar, call her crazy. The photo, Ellie, the photo of Prince Andrew with his hand around underage Virginia Giuffre, they said it was altered. And then just last week, they said, oh, yeah, that photo is legitimate.
Yeah, right.
And Prince Andrew is no longer a prince because a week before Virginia Giuffre released her memoir, oh yeah, she had to release it after death because she committed suicide. Prince Andrew is no longer a prince. Leon Black, who we've talked about a lot for the past several months, me, Zev, Lev, Ellie, is a billionaire who, folks, still alive, still very lucid.
He's somebody who's in court cases that we haven't even been talking about. And she describes his MO as that he bites girls. That was his MO. He would bite them and in vicious manners, like not just like, whatever, but like, and that is an MO that's another thing that lends to the credibility is this girl is saying this in like 2000. She's saying that he would bite me. And then you can look at court cases later on from other years that say the same thing. So you say, oh, she's describing, so that was his MO. That's the thing that he did. Two people describing this in separate places at separate times who didn't know each other, didn't know about each other's information, are saying the same thing. So you find little clues that lend to the credibility.
It's one of those situations where you look at all the data that's coming out. And look, folks, it's allegations. So we say it's allegations, right? Speculation. But there is clearly a pattern. Like, there's like after, what do they say? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And when there's like smoke after smoke after smoke after smoke. And then with Black, who did he party with? Trump.
Yeah.
Where did he party? Russia. Who introduced Brad Carr of Paul Weiss? Because we're seeing some heads roll. Paul Weiss is for those who don't know, just to show you how incestuous. Because that's what we spent. Like for those who are joining us, I talked to Elizabeth Lopatto of The Verge for an hour. We're just talking about how incestuous. It's a big club. It's literally a 1 degree of separation.
Yeah.
Brad Carr was the CEO of Paul Weiss. Paul Weiss is a big, fancy corporate law firm. They represented Leon Black. Leon Black allegedly introduced Brad Carr, who was the CEO of Paul Weiss, to Epstein. Epstein got Brad Carr into this exclusive golf club. And then Brad Carr tried to get his son as an extra or an actor in a Woody Allen movie, because who also partied with Epstein? Woody Allen.
Like
and then it was all revealed last week.
Yeah.
And then Brad Carr's like, oh, let me resign. Oh, but guess what? Who was the first law firm last year to bend the knee to Donald Trump and offer pro bono services? Does anyone want to take a guess? Paul Weiss.
Yeah. I mean, again, you nailed it. It's incestuous. It's like the idea of Brett Ratner directing Melania's film when he is like one of the people who went down the hardest during Me Too because so many women accused him of sexual assault. Like it's a big party. And this will circle back to something that Michael Cohen said, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's a big party of these wealthy men in the city who don't, to this day, do not think that the sexual exploits that they did were wrong. They're scared about the money stuff. They're scared about having paper, about documentation of transactions that they made. They're not scared about the sex stuff because they still don't recognize that stuff was wrong. They call it the naughty 90s. It was New York City. Girls grow up fast here. Like that is something, again, we'll get back to that in a minute, but like that is something that I don't think a single one of them has any problem with the things that they did.
Hey Lev, I'll bring you on in 2 minutes. Just stick around. We mentioned we're going to bring you on in a second, but I want to ask Ellie one thing, and then we're going to talk about the Wolfpack, and then we'll keep continuing. Can you talk to us about how Epstein faked a plea deal?
Oh yeah, so there is a letter that came out, I think in mid-December, and again, this is when every once in a while something pops up, and I'm like, aha, I'm a transcriber, I can do this. Like this is something I can do that somebody else might not be able to do. There was a letter that was laying on a floor. It was photocopied, and it was a document that was talking about the plea deal that Epstein was about to take, and all this evidence that information had been leaked, and so there were illegalities, and so we need to lessen the plea deal. And it was supposedly coming from Epstein's legal team, and it was being given to Alex Acosta, this letter. Except I've transcribed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of emails from Jeffrey Epstein, and so I know how he writes. I know the way he words things. I know that he is probably somewhere on the spectrum of learning delays, weird double commas and using punctuation incorrectly. Like I recognize his writing, even if he doesn't have his name on it, I'll know if he's writing. And I know that he wrote this letter. And so you have this letter that went to Alex Acosta that was asking him to reduce the plea deal into something a little lighter, right? And what you have to remember that is originally, there was an indictment for Jeffrey Epstein that was actually 60 indictments, which would have made sense because there were 36 underage accusers. By the time he accepted the plea deal, which was not notified to any of the survivors prior to, it was 2 indictments.
Yep.
And he then went to jail for 13 months, not prison, which he should have been prison, jail for 13 months. 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, he was allowed to leave the office and go work for the Florida Science Foundation, which was his front that did nothing scientific nor did anything philanthropic. But he was allowed to leave the office. And then he continued, as we have heard in later accounts, that he continued on doing things with an ankle bracelet, like with his, and abusing these girls. So there's some kind of evidence that this letter did something, went somewhere. It was to Alex Acosta, but that it was actually from Jeffrey Epstein asking them to reduce the plea deal. There needs to be more follow-up. We need to have more evidence, but it's definitely a conversation.
Hey, Lev, before I bring you in real quick, just to connect the dots for everyone, Alex Acosta, of course, was a U.S. attorney who to this day no one can understand or explain why he gave a sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein, despite them having him dead to rights with multiple witnesses. He cuts a deal, as Ellie said, behind the victims. After he makes the deal, then he informs the victims. Only 2 counts. He pleads guilty to it. Epstein stays out of jail for 13 months for pretty much 90% of the time, where he continues raping people. And then he becomes a sex offender, registered sex offender. If you look at the latest dates on all of these emails that have come out in the past 2 weeks, they're all after he was a convicted of soliciting a child for prostitution.
Oh yeah, the torture video that he talks about with the Salam, like that was while he was still incarcerated. Was he watching that?
Well, one good news is Sultan, for what Ellie's talking about, is Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, who is a powerful Dubai tycoon. It was revealed today that he has resigned as CEO of his company because there's 2 formal emails. One of the emails is about how I don't want to say like some Russian.
Yeah.
And then the other email was great torture video, which goes back to what Ellie was saying is it's not just they were raping girls, which is bad enough, but we have to also look at allegations of them not just raping girls and sex trafficking, but in these potential rough sex, I don't even want to say rape, but like whatever, torture. And we know that Epstein had video cameras everywhere, so he recorded everything. And maybe one of these men was literally raping and torturing this girl.
And they were choking girls. We know.
Well, not only that, but we're watching I'm sorry to jump in.
No, go ahead.
But we know Ellie has discovered about Zora Ranch. Let's not talk. There's literally conversation about not only torture but murdering. I mean that some of that thing got out of control and they buried bodies and we don't know where that was. So I mean.
When you have American girls, they have social security numbers, but when you bring girls from overseas, they didn't have any of that.
Right.
Like they were not traceable. And so when you have these people that have MOs of choking girls out, like Virginia Giuffre described a Hood Barack without naming him, but we know that that's who it was.
There you go.
He choked girls out until they passed out. And if something went a little bit too far, it's not unlikely that somebody wouldn't be revived. And if so, then they wouldn't be traceable because they were not from the US. They were brought here, under some other guise. But like, that's not unlikely. That's not like some kind of fantasy could never happen movie plot. Like that likely could happen and probably did happen at a place like Zorro that was 8,000 acres. Like there's no way to know what happened there.
Well, Lev, let me 1 second. Actually, right now, unfortunately, with they're trying to work on this Substack, so you can only bring 2 guests. But honestly, the timing was so exquisite because Pablo Manriquez is actually in the chat, and I was going to really quickly talk about his great scoop that he had from today. I don't know if you saw this scoop. Pablo Manriquez, folks, is from the Migrant Insider. We had him on as a guest. He gets fantastic scoops. He literally is like, goes and like asks elected officials in DC questions. I just posted the link. Check this out, guys. Let me read it. Scoop. Ghislaine Maxwell lied on her U.S. citizenship application. Newly examined court documents published by the Department of Justice show that Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite convicted in 2021 of sex trafficking minors, appears to have provided false answers on her U.S. citizenship application in 2002, potentially exposing her to immigration fraud charges. And naturalization documents filed in the U.S. District Court for Southern District of New York show Maxwell checked no to 2 critical questions on her N-400 application. Have you ever committed a crime or offense for which you were not arrested? Have you ever been a prostitute or procured anyone for prostitution?
Wow.
He said no to both.
That's fantastic. Wow. That's a great find.
That's a great scoop. And again, shout out to all of the independent journalists out there.
That's Pablo, guys. Pablo Manriquez.
Pablo. Shout out to Pablo. Yeah.
I can't bring you on because Substack right now only allows 3. But I wanted to give you a shout out. Lev, you were there at the hearing. What did you see? What did you hear?
Oh man! First of all, let me say that the biggest take that I got out of there that I keep speaking about is literally watching the deflated faces of the survivors during the break, because during the break when everybody, like around 1:00, when everybody was leaving the room and they were walking out there, like watching them with their heads down walk out of there, and then having them come in and then again stand there as props, raising their hands and having, I don't even want to call her the attorney general. I mean, she's not really, there's no respect for her. Calling it, she doesn't want to get into quoting her the gutter, by referring to these survivors. It was very tense. Even people sitting behind Pam Bondi on her own team, you could tell their reactions were like awkward. But I don't know what pill she took. I don't know what shot she took. I don't know what drink. I don't know what. But it was just something that even I was extremely in shock with to see the reaction, because the other thing I saw that was the Republicans, again, literally no backbone except for Massey. There was conversation prior to that I even was listening, rumblings that I know that the survivors met with a lot of the Republican Congress people prior to the days leading up to this hearing, and they were promised that they were going to be asked hard questions, and watching them not only not ask the hard questions but platform her by allowing her to insult and talk the way she did to others was just, again, and for those of people out there screaming, saying, oh, Trump is going to get rid of her, she embarrassed Trump. No, Trump was sitting and laughing and enjoying himself, because that's all who she was playing for. They were cheering her on like a WWE fight, like, like, yeah, go get him. Like, look, oh, she gave it to him. She came prepared. The other big take that we saw while we were there, because one of the reporters got it, and you started hearing rumblings even in the court when they took a picture of the one of Pam Bondi's notes in there, that she actually had the files that they were looking into, that the Democrats, when they were in the skiff looking at the files, Pam Bondi had the actual notes there. I didn't see the actual, but one of the reporters grabbed it, and there was talks about it in the hallways even because of it going on, and I was able to confirm it that night, that there was even more. I've ever actually met with. I can't go into detail of some of the conversations, but I even had Ellie on the phone with some of the Congress people. She'll validate that we had some, without naming the Congress people and without naming the conversations. But I could tell you that we've done significant work behind the scenes to open up their eyes and help them, and to be able to go forward with some of the stuff.
Can I also say another big piece of news that, I mean, because there's so much, and I wanted to, it seemed that like Pam Bondi at the hearing had a printout of Representative Jay Paul's history of searches of the Department of Justice's database of documents relating to Epstein. She had photos of, this is from CNBC, photos of a black binder that Bondi had at the hearing that showed the words J Paul search history and a list of documents whose numbers coincide with the numbering of Epstein files. What? Like, that's, I don't know, am I the only one who's kind of freaked out by that? Like,
no.
Why does she know, and how does she know?
Yeah, no, they're flipping out, and it gets worse, Waj, because we're hearing, and I'm not the only one hearing, but we're hearing that they're surveilling phone records of Congress people and independent journalists. Like, there's a full-out blitz right now going inside the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA coordinated, and there's this, and I hate to say it, folks, this leads right into what Tulsi Gabbard's doing. This is literally all connected, because, and we'll talk a little bit about Tulsi, because I know, Waj, you texted me last night. I got some major information for you on that part also. I actually have, I could confirm, I'm going to say it like this, 75%, because I don't want to say, I'm going to say 75%. One of the names I'm going to confirm that's actually is one of the foreign nationals caught discussing Jared Kushner.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're...
Wait, let's real quick, folks, we're looking at, basically what we're looking at.
We have a lot.
No, we're connected. Real quick, for those who are joining us, the 11,000 people are joining us. Thank you so much. This is Ellie Leonard from the Panic
Wild.
This is Lev Parnas from Lev Remembers. We're talking about how the Trump administration and its lackeys are deeply connected to Epstein and can't escape. What we're witnessing, and you saw it, literally just look at the evidence of your eyes. Don't trust any of us. Just trust your own eyes. You're witnessing a cover-up. You saw the cover-up happening on Wednesday with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, just literally playing to the audience of one, Donald Trump, the man who's mentioned more than any other person in the Epstein files, who was the closest person to Jeffrey Epstein for 10 years while they were chasing young girls. This cover-up extends even beyond Epstein, because what we found out is Tulsi Gabbard, who's the director of our national intelligence, joined the FBI during a raid of Fulton County election offices, where then she put Donald Trump on the phone to talk to the FBI agents. Totally normal, not. And then a few days later, folks, it was reported by The Guardian that the NSA, National Security Agency, had intercepted a highly sensitive phone call between two foreign intelligence assets talking about someone who was very close to Donald Trump. They took it to Tulsi Gabbard. Instead of writing a report, instead of launching an investigation, Tulsi Gabbard takes that, shares it with Susie Wiles, who's the chief of staff, and then, totally normal, they completely hide it. Literally, it's like in a safe, lock and key. Thanks to a whistleblower and the whistleblower's attorney, we know that Tulsi Gabbard and Susie Wiles are covering up something. We don't know what, but they're covering up something. And a couple of days later, just last night, the Wall Street Journal reported that the individual that they were talking about is Jared Kushner. All right, Lev, tell us what you've heard.
So yeah, so not only Jared Kushner, but they were talking about Iran also. And what I'm hearing is that the foreign nationals were both Russian, and one of the foreign national was Kirill Dmitriev. While he was here, after talks with Witkoff and Kushner, he was on a phone call with another I think one of the U.S. The Russian embassy, somebody in the Russian foreign intelligence, either in the embassy or somebody also here in the States. That conversation was up because part of the conversation that they had. It had to do with Iran because right now Russia is in the middle of these conversations that Trump is having and trying to get the win in Iran without using military force. And the only pressure he has over them is Russia and Putin, and that's why it's all again. We've been talking about for months connects the dots to what happened in Venezuela with Maduro and what's going on in Ukraine and what's happening in the Middle East. It's all coming back to it's coming back to roost. So I could say with about 70%, 75% confidence, it was Kirill Dmitriev, and it was after a conversation that they had in Miami with Jared Kushner and Witkoff during these peace talks.
And guys, a question you should be asking: what the f is Jared Kushner doing? Speaking to Steve Witkoff, why did Jared Kushner just 2 days ago meet Benjamin Netanyahu, who was visiting? You know who else met him? Steve Witkoff. You know who got $2 billion to start his company from Saudi Arabia? Jared Kushner. You know who's also doing business in Ukraine and Russia? Jared Kushner and the Witkoffs. You know who made a lot of money through crypto? Yep. Oh, yes, the Trump family and the Witkoffs. You know who coached the Russian ambassador, and we have it thanks to the Bloomberg audio about how best to talk to Donald Trump? Witkoff, not Marco Rubio. It was Witkoff. Ellie and Lev, when you hear this, Ellie, it goes back to the utter lack of accountability. We don't even have to believe in conspiracy theories. They're doing this out in the open. This is like open quid pro quo.
Yeah, this is really I was just gonna say this whole last 6 months has been a bluff calling for me because I am so anti-conspiracy theory. Like I grew up with a lot of conspiracies and I really try to keep my feet on the ground and do my homework and make sure the things that I talk about actually exist. But seeing certain things come to fruition are mind blowing, and it's upsetting. It's upsetting that some of this stuff might be true.
Yeah, and also Lev, real quick, I want to remind people in the first Trump administration, Jared Kushner failed his security clearances. He didn't get a security clearance, folks. They did just listen to this, folks. They did a background on him, and he couldn't get security clearance. And the Trump administration said, it's fine. And that mother effer now is cozying up with the Witkoffs, talking to Saudi Arabia, talking to Netanyahu, unleashing his new plan for New Gaza, apparently talking about business opportunities in Russia and Ukraine. And the fact, why would they protect him real quick, Lev? Why wouldn't Tulsi Gabbard just share this information?
Well, because first of all, Tulsi, they're trying to cover up what's happening in Russia. What's happening in Russia is, they're cutting deals. Basically, here, I'll give you Maduro, you give me Ukraine. We're going to open up Nord Stream 2. We'll sell the oil there. Trump today said, just think about what he said in Venezuela. He actually acknowledged Delcy Rodriguez as the president, and he acknowledged the government of Venezuela, the same corrupt government that she was in the same indictment with Maduro. But now, all of a sudden, because she's sharing money with him, and because, like he said, the oil is flowing and the money's going into Qatar, everybody's having a great day, I guess. Same thing that's happening there. They're right now, they're in the works of major deals. I mean, and like I said, Nord Stream 2 is a major play where they're going to put a chokehold on NATO. This is where Greenland comes to play. That's why Trump is making these words, saying he's not going to need to use military, folks. They put Nord Stream 2 into play. He's going to choke the Germans and all of you, because the gas right there. I know a lot of people talk, but when it gets cold, and it just remember what Russia has been doing all these years to Eastern Europe until we cut them off with Nord Stream 2, until we, put the sanctions on and everything. So that is why Tulsi Gabbard, that's why Susie Wild, that's why they're all protecting, because the true conversations and negotiations are happening behind the scenes, and they can't let that escape, because what we're seeing, and the news is reporting that it's, just the media, that there's peace talks happening. Trump's trying to get the Nobel Peace Prize, take it from somebody else again.
Yeah, folks, all this is back deal stuff, right? It's not Marco Rubio talking to Russia. That's his job, Secretary of State. It's friggin' Steve Witkoff. Why? Why? That's a question I asked 2 days ago when I saw the photo of Jared Kushner meeting Benjamin Netanyahu in D.C. Why? Why are you meeting the Prime Minister of Israel in DC, Jared Kushner? Like,
and
what's your
Kushner,
role here?
And Kushner was meeting with the Iranian officials also. I mean, they're meeting all of these hotspots that are connecting the dots. Kushner and Witkoff, the two Tweedledum, are literally all over the place. And another thing, just to connect some more dots, just to show you today, Zev Shalev had an incredible piece also connecting, because he really works the Russia situation. You know, he connected Peter Thiel in the Epstein files. You're seeing Epstein, Peter Thiel discussing with Viktor Churkin, who is the Russian ambassador, discussing going to Russia, you know, getting visas. I mean, and this is why I wear the shirt, folks. Everyone is in the sloop. Everyone is in the sloop, and that's why this is the biggest conspiracy. This is the biggest cover up in the history of the world,
But it's
not
not
just the
even a
United
conspiracy.
States.
Like, you know, I understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
pardon me for being like nitpicky.
No, go. You're right.
Not a conspiracy. See, it's like, you know, I was talking to Elizabeth Lapato, the tech Verge reporter, the tech reporter at the Verge, and she was saying, you know, same thing. Like, you would think it's a conspiracy, but no. What she's learned covering this, it's literally out in the open. It's like the worst thing you would think. They're openly doing it, right? Raping girls, sex trafficking, eugenics, right? Trying to disrupt the world order, aligning themselves with the far right, promoting misogyny, promoting white nationalist talking points. And like you said, Jeffrey Epstein was really kind of obsessed with Putin, and he thought Putin would be an ally for him to disrupt this world order so they could all escape accountability. He wasn't able to meet Putin, but folks, the latest batch of the Epstein files, I know there's a lot, he really tried. He saw Putin and Bannon and all these other people who kind of shared his perverse world vision of disrupting the post-World War II order to essentially escape well, some people said eat babies. We don't know that. That's a conspiracy about eating babies. So I always like, you know, always be careful on that.
Thank you, Wash.
And
Thank
you
you.
don't need to go there. That's why I want to tell people.
Yeah.
You don't need to go there. Everything that we know is terrible enough.
Yes. That is a great point.
Thank you.
That is a great point. I talked a little bit, I just did a podcast a little bit ago, but like, you know, when you look at the Epstein file, you have to remember it's a little bit like an FBI tip line. Like a lot of these, when somebody commits a crime and they say, please call this number and submit your tips, you know, a good chunk of them are true, but some of them are not true. So you have to take things with a grain of salt and do your homework. But we have enough information in these files already that is proven to convict a long list of bad actors. I mean, you know, icing on the cake if we find some horrible story. I mean, it sounds terrible, but like if there's some terrible story that comes up that's true on top of everything, that probably just moves it along a little faster. But like we have enough. If our justice system is just, which it is not, but if it were, then we have enough to convict everyone.
Thank
you. We have the evidence.
And that's why I try to be very careful on this. I'm with you, Ellie. You know, we really I try my best not to be conspiracy theories, folks. And then that's why I really appreciate Lev saying 75%. I will say, because when Lev is 100%, he comes out, he says 100%, and so far he's betting 1,000. When he's not, he says, let me wait. I think it's very important because especially with the lack of trust in our institutions, especially with disinformation, the way it spreads. I mean, I got really intelligent family members. They send me stupid shit on WhatsApp. I'm like, bro, this is AI. I'm like, what are you doing? You're an educated person. And they're like, it's AI? Oh, it looks so real. And so, you know, we don't need to, and we know the whole system is skewed towards the right. They'll focus on one lie and they'll say, see, everything was a lie. So we don't need to even indulge in this. We can take our time, and the stuff is so terrible, to Ellie's point. It's enough, folks. Like torture tapes, that's enough for me. An entire cabal of pedophiles, that's enough for me. People dining with a pedophile and perfectly fine with him being a pedophile and then joking about girls, that's enough for me, folks. I really don't need much more, but there is more. I want to speak about accountability, and this is where I want to talk about the Wolfpack real quick. And before I say it, allow me to play Ellie and Lev. This is very important. Anyone who's watching, the nearly 12,000 people.
Wow.
I have nothing against Michael Cohen personally. I have no beef against him. This is not me, you know, this is not me, you know, settling scores. I got nothing against the guy. Full disclosure, and this I'm only speaking for myself. I engaged with Michael Cohen once. Last year, he asked me to come on because you know, after Trump won. So I came on. He was really worried. If you go look at that, I went on his show. He was just really worried about retaliation and Trump cracking down. Second time I engaged with him, I think it was like a month and a half ago when Zev invited me.
Yeah.
It was a big panel. It was me, Zev, Lev, after I came on, Ellie jumped on. Michael jumped on. I had no idea Michael was going to be on. He was, he was interesting. He was doing some impressions and whatnot. That's it. Okay, I just want people to know that. Okay, now my take with Michael is this: Ellie, her subscriber, found in the last batch of the Epstein files a Rule 35 consideration. What's a Rule 35 consideration? Great question. Rule 35 consideration is when a defense attorney of someone who's incarcerated or convicted says, hey, I have really good information that will help the state. In fact, in exchange for this information, can you commute or reduce the sentence? So Ellie's subscriber found a Rule 35 consideration that Michael Cohen's attorneys made to the Southern District of New York in 2019 when Michael Cohen was convicted and in jail and Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. And that Rule 35 consideration said that Michael Cohen had some information or had heard Donald Trump talk about Epstein. Okay, everyone with me? Awesome. Ellie, Tara Palmieri, Zev, Lev, in very nice ways, Acosta, Walsh, in very nice ways, have asked him, Michael, about this. That's it. Not in an accusatory way, just asked him. Or anything about Epstein. And each time, he literally freaks out. And not only just freaks out, becomes very rude. All right. Yeah. We just are like, whoa, bro, spidey sense. Are you hiding something? Maybe you're not. But why are you acting so weird? We've been kind of on it, literally just trying to ask him because, folks, innocent until proven guilty. I'm just asking, bro, that's kind of weird. I want full transparency. I don't care if you're Bill Gates. I don't care if you're Peter Thiel. We need full transparency. And you are the right-hand man of Donald Trump. You paid off Karen McDougal. You paid off Stormy Daniels, right? Then, folks, 2.5 weeks ago, I think it was 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks, Lev, on his own, Michael Cohen, on his Substack, publishes that Letitia James and Alvin Bragg coerced him into his testimony. To which I ask, wow, 9 years later, you remembered that these two people coerced you? How did they coerce you? And if they did coerce you, did you lie under oath? What did you lie about? That's where I am, Ellie and Lev. I just want everyone to know I have nothing. And I think these are normal questions that we should ask. But apparently Michael Cohen has said that we're part of the Wolfpack and we're out to get him. And he's going to sue us. To which I say, don't waste your money. And if you sue us, we'll countersue. And then there will be discovery. All right. So, Lev,
can I jump in real fast?
Yeah, go ahead, Ellie. Go ahead.
Okay, so it became this conversation about Katie Johnson, which is one of the rougher cases in the files about 13-year-old girl who accused Trump and Epstein of abusing her, which would have occurred in 2016, which is during Michael Cohen's time as Trump's fixer. I don't think any of us connected those dots that Michael Cohen would have anything to do with that. But when it was brought up again, he became very defensive, very angry, which I've seen him do before when it was brought up, which was kind of, it's kind of like, well, what are you doing? Nobody's accusing you. Nobody's saying anything. Why are we jumping to all of this? And then, he starts talking about this other Jane Doe case about an infant and like going to somebody's house in the Bronx and realizing it's just a parking lot and it's not real. And then it becomes this, he went on Joyanne Reid this week and he had brought forth all this paperwork saying, this is the actual case. This proves my point. This is what I was saying was right. Well, backpedaling a little bit, like I did an interview that I don't think it's come out yet. I think it's coming out this week, but I had done an interview with a man named Ed Oppenberg, and he's a private investigator and he has a podcast, and we were just talking about something else. And in the middle of this podcast, he goes, oh, didn't you know I was Katie Johnson's private investigator? And I said, no, I did not know that. That's wild. Hi, I have a lot of questions for you. So in this process, when Joy said he was going to come on our show, and she said, well, look, he has this other court case that he says proves that he had nothing to do with Katie Johnson. And I said, would you mind if I looked at it? And she gave it to me. I went and asked Ed. I said, is this Katie Johnson? Is this the same case? And he said, 100%. That's the same.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Like,
I didn't know that. Wow.
And so
we have a lot, boss. Get ready.
So it became very odd. He went on our show and he didn't really let her talk. And he started using all these documents that we had said are Katie Johnson. He used it as his reason to disprove everything and he kept saying he was exonerated. And I'm like, nope, that's what we've been saying. You're using the documents that we've been saying. And then he started to say that he had had this long conversation with Trump about Epstein and the Katie Johnson case, which totally went against everything he had ever said in the interviews with us, because he said that he never heard the name Epstein in all the years that he worked for Trump. That was the first red flag where I was like, that's not possible. So now he says, maybe Letitia James and Alvin Bragg didn't coerce him. Maybe he just felt coerced. So I thought that was interesting. He said that and the thing. And then by the end of the conversation, he kept saying he was not looking for a pardon. And then Joanne said, well, you have this letter that you've written or whatever. And she says, isn't that a request for a pardon? He goes, well, maybe whatever. And then so all of a sudden we have that he wasn't coerced. He is looking for a pardon. He is saying he was involved with this Katie Johnson case and talked with Trump about it. And I'm like, and he's walking away saying all that information exonerates him. And I'm like, no, that's what we said about you in the very beginning. And then after he gets off that, in my DMs, here comes Michael Cohen with this, like, I think you owe me an apology now. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm so confused at this point that I was just like, nope, I'm done. He's blocked. I don't have any interest in watching his live. Like, I don't understand. He's talking in circles. It's so confusing. And I think that's the point. But he's literally saying the thing that we said about him in the beginning and saying that it exonerates him. And it's like, no, that was our side of the bar. Like, I'm just so confused.
No, I appreciate it, Lev. I'll give it to you in a second, but just to let you know where I'm in this, I think Ellie was yesterday or a day and a half ago, sends me an email and says, you'll probably need an ibuprofen after seeing that. I'm like, Ellie, I got 3 kids. I'm not feeling well. I got like, I don't even have time. Like,
right.
Like some people in the comment section are saying Michael Cohen's calling you part of the Wolfpack. I'm like, the Hangover, the Wolfpack, going to Vegas. Like, I had no idea. And then literally, I said, I'm just gonna wait. I don't have time. I'm assuming it's a bunch of bullshit. So I really appreciate you telling me that. I did not know all of that. Lev, your turn.
Yeah, let me add a little bit more content because it gets even better. So first of all, full disclosure, I spoke to Joy Reid. She's a dear friend, and she is not validating anything Michael Cohen is saying. She is very upset that Michael Cohen's out there using her name and trying to say that she validated or supported anything. And she is totally confused right now of what he did, and we're going to talk about this. Second of all, Ellie, shout out, love your shirt. Definitely save Ukraine. And just to get a big surprise for all of you. So because Michael Cohen wants to do it, so we're going to pick a charity and we're going to do it. Folks, the Wolfpack has their shirts ready, folks. The Wolfpack is here. The Truth has Truth. You could go on my website, get them. The donations we'll figure out. We'll either send the money to the survivors or to Ukraine or to Middle East. But here they are. We'll get some more. The Wolfpack. The Wolfpack, and the Truth has teeth.
That's wild.
The Truth has teeth. So that's first of all. That's the first of all. Second of all, I want to say this, that Michael Cohen, what happened was while Ellie and everybody was finding out, I'll give you my side of it behind the scenes, because me and Michael we were doing our own show together, everything. So after Tara Palmieri, came on and asked the questions, and then we had this whole thing with Zev and Waj and all of that, me and Michael started really going at it, asking questions. I started asking him questions. I started calling sources. I started realizing that Michael's full of shit, that he has more hiding. But the one thing I realized that somebody told me, one of my sources called me back in the beginning of January, if you guys remember, and I said to you that he reached out to Donald Trump and he's trying to meet at the White House. Well, lo and behold, we didn't know, but today we confirmed it, because when Michael Cohen went live in the beginning of January, and we'll go over that. First of all, later on tonight, Zev's trying to put together, we have a lot to uncover, because he did a 2-hour interview, folks, with a mega right-wing, where you can't even, Pat, what's his name? Ben David.
Patrick Ben David.
Patrick Ben David.
He's just a smash, man. But yeah, the right wing loves that guy.
He's Donald
Patrick
Trump.
Ben David, super Trumper who is just a mediocrity, who somehow has just gone up with social media, and he gets validation now with all these mainstream people because he has such a platform. But he's a terrible guy.
Terrible guy. So long story short, Michael Cohen, what's it called? I that's when I told you guys and Joy, and we were talking. I'm like, he's trying to get a pardon, and that's when at the same time Michael Cohen wrote a letter about Letitia James and about Alvin Bragg. Well, what he did is after he wrote that letter, he came to Florida where he met with Ben David, and he was trying to get him to see the White House. Well, basically Trump didn't see him and basically told him to go screw himself. So at that point, he did an interview with Ben David, which was recorded 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so just understand, he did a recording for 2 hours prior to going on Joy Reid, prior to calling this lawyer, prior to this Epstein stuff, some of it coming out, prior to all of this. And we have
coinciding with the Substack post.
Coinciding with the Substack post. So, folks, I just want to do this. Can I do this for 2 seconds? I want to just give you a little, because we have 2 hours of it right now.
Yeah,
Zev Shalev is right now breaking it down. So tonight, hopefully, Waj, you could join, and Ellie, we'll see if we can. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's my daughter's birthday, so I may not be there. But...
I know, that's it. But we're going to try to break it down to you because it's 2 hours of incredible stuff that you don't want to miss. But let me play a couple of minutes, just a clip of it, for you guys to see exactly what's going on. Waj, you're not ready for this. Hold on. Let me put...
Can I tell how I found this? Because I sent this to Lev last night. I'll tell you how I found it.
Well,
I was actually...
Oh, you hear me? Okay, here.
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll tell you.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hold on.
I love that your tech is like at my level.
Yeah, absolutely. you know me. I
yeah, like I don't know how to do any of this.
Okay. Here we go.
You know, real estate, another guy, and our children are all friends. You know, wow. And so I mean, yeah. Are you still good with Steve, or do you? If I saw him, sure. Howard Lutnick, I know Howard longer than I know Trump. My daughter and his son went to nursery school together. It's 25 years I know Howard. 25 years. I saw him after Trump became president. Came over, gave me a hug, the whole bit, gave me a kiss, hello, how are you? You know, the whole bit. I have no problem with him or Allison, his wife.
Why are they so loyal to him?
What's that?
Why are they so loyal to him?
There's many different reasons. One, they believe in what Trump's agenda is. And two, it's probably very financially lucrative, you know, for all of them to be in the inner circle.
Okay, so fair to say that. Now, but going back to it with Trump, 2026, how important would you say, like if you were to say one of the most loyal guys I've met to his people is Trump, what would you rank him?
One of the most loyal
to his people that are loyal to him.
Let's say out of 10 people.
You met a lot of guys, right?
Probably towards the top.
Towards the top, sure. You have said that in 2020, 2021.
Absolutely. By the way, if you look at my testimony, that when I was on the stand, and again, I did not volunteer to be on that stand. I was subpoenaed. By the way, would I have done the 60, 90 days like Peter Navarro or like Alan Weisselberg had I had somebody in my camp? Hell yeah. Certainly it's a lot better than the 6 years that I got from that idiot judge, right? Off of what? Off of doing an NDA, right? I mean, that's really what it was about an NDA, about the Russia hoax. Had I had even just a shred of loyalty thrown back to me, some care, some knowledge that, hey, let's protect Michael. Let's put our arms around him. It's what a mob boss would do. Don't take the guy and then just say, oh, yeah, point over there. Hey, no. Look at him. Don't look at me. Stop looking at me. Look at him over there. No, that's not right. I would never have testified. I didn't want to. In fact, when I said I felt pressured and coerced, I felt coerced. I was under subpoena. I felt pressured. I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to. It's my personal feelings. And I'm entitled to them.
Absolutely you are. So if these guys who were in Trump's ears, let's just say that they, turned you against him.
No, the other way around.
Turned him against you, whatever it may be. And let's just say you know that for a fact.
I do.
Okay, fair. If you know that for a fact, don't you think time's going to be on your side? Don't you think within time he's going to realize what happened?
My hope?
No, but what I'm saying is, even in that moment to say, did this guy, I have 100% of his back. Don't you think And I want to finish this and then we can move on to the next stop.
I have a response for this. That's going to blow you away.
So what I'm saying is, in that moment, you're like, what is he doing? Patient, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. Then he sees the guys that did this. Then he sees how they did. And then he sits there and says, but that Michael guy never flipped. But that Michael guy never threw me under the bus. But that Michael guy, you know what? Call Michael. Don't you think time would have strengthened the relationship?
As that time. All right. When this is happening to you in real time, you're thinking post fact. And I agree with you. Post fact probably would have been
That's
better.
what makes it tough, dude. That's what makes it
hard. It makes it tough. It makes it impossible because you're living in a world.
Yeah.
I can assure you, this has never happened to you. In fact, it's probably never happened to any of you, any of your listeners either. You can't imagine what it feels like. It's not an anvil dropping out like in the Roadrunner from the sky and squashing you into a...
He chose that job, dude. That comes with the territory. It's not an easy job.
What job you referring to?
Don't choose to go into the administration.
I didn't go into the administration.
Don't choose to stay supporting when he's at that level. I mean, this is the most targeted man.
It wasn't
politics in our life.
Though it wasn't anything that we had done while he was in office. This was everything free. None of it was political.
What we done, you heard?
It's all free.
I understand.
My point is, so what was I looking for? What was I hoping for? I was hoping that the man who I revered, man who I had worked for, had blasts with. We used to travel together, laugh on. I don't see Trump laughing anymore. I don't see him smiling. I don't see him having a good time.
I think he's having the time of his life.
No.
Wow. Well, that's just a clip of folks. I'm telling you, there's so much more. There's literally where Michael is talking about going to the White House, calling the White House, that basically it's all out.
Guys, my take on this is, listen, I look at the evidence in front of me. This is a man who clearly, from his own words, what you just heard, is openly saying, what I've been selling for the past 9 years, I wouldn't have sold it to you. I would have been part of the resistance if my boss had simply showed me some loyalty and reached out and said, hey, I got your back. I wouldn't have helped Letitia James and Alvin Bragg. I wouldn't have spoken out. In fact, everything I've done for the past 9 years is because my boss threw me to the wolves. Maybe I should have been more patient, and maybe I should have waited for the pardon, and maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. But I was so pissed off and so betrayed like a spurned lover that I then went to Letitia James and Alvin Bragg and felt pressured to do the right thing that I have now laundered my reputation on for the past 9 years. But I really didn't want to do the right thing because I didn't really do anything that bad. And my boss should have pardoned me. And I'm so sad that my boss didn't. And now that the Wolfpack is after me and they realize, oh shit, I might lose my grip with the left wing, because once the left wing realizes, or the left, or the majority, I would say.
Oh, you know what? He calls us in this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. No, we're not the left wing. We're the fascist, radical left.
Yeah, it just sounds like Trump. Sounds just like Trump.
Word for word. Wait, when you hear in the interview, the way he calls us, and me and Joy were talking, and I go, what are we, radical now? What's going on? Like, how did we become radical all of a sudden?
It's all about Michael Cohen. It's all about him protecting him. That's my take on it, folks. Yeah. And now that he realizes, oh, my flank is threatened because these guys are going to keep digging on Epstein, and oh shit, Epstein's not going away, and oh shit, this was 3 weeks ago, right? Lutnick is now in the Epstein files and he lied about it. I don't think I can escape the Epstein files. So let me try to move back to Trump and see if I can find any avenue to survive. Ellie, that's my take.
Yeah, and I would say, like, if you don't watch, because you'd have to go back and find it, but like the most important pieces of his interview with Joy Reid are probably the last 5 minutes. And that is when she gets it out of him that he is looking for a pardon. That is what he wants. Like, I don't think he ever came to any of this willingly. He sold a book out of it. He did his best with it or whatever, but I don't think this was ever his plan. And I think all of us have said since the beginning, if he is offered a place back in that circle, he'll take it in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that part of the interview is talking about how Patrick Ben David's talking about him, that he should call Trump and that Trump is a forgiving man, and Michael Cohen goes into talking about how he wants to give Trump the win, and he has 70 million votes because of this thing. He wants Trump to sign to pardon 70 million, not for him, not for his pardon. He goes, but for 70 million minority and just think about, he goes, how great this would be for Donald Trump. I mean, it's crazy. Like he's talking about, and then it's so weird. And then he mentions, he goes, and one of my biggest distractors, he goes, would also benefit from a pardon if I got this done.
Yeah, he said that in Joyce. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He mentions it like that, and it is just so crazy that he also. I'll give you another inside info. He's there in negotiations with Patrick Ben David to do a podcast together. Him and Michael Cohen to do a show, which is the one the Midas Touch dropped. He had some show with the Midas Touch that he wants to do a new variation with. It's insane, folks. You can't make this shit up.
So that's look. I think we're all agreement is if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to lose. Just be transparent. This is for anyone mentioned the Epstein files. If you have nothing to hide, you would literally have nothing to lose. Say, hey, I was invited to a meeting. Epstein was there. I didn't know him. Done. Everything he's done so far, Michael Cohen reveals to me a man who's hiding something. That's just my take on it. What is he hiding? I don't care about Michael Cohen. I care about accountability. I care about justice, and I care about the survivors. If he does want to sue us, why? I don't know.
I hope so.
Good luck. Countersue and then discovery. And so I don't think, if you're listening, Michael Wolf, I don't think you want to sue us, folks, because I don't think you want discovery. I drive a Honda Odyssey minivan. This is my Millennium Falcon. I'm a middle-aged man who works out to stay overweight. I wrote everything about my life in the memoir.
Yeah.
Open book. All right. Open book. So that's where I am. Ellie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah. I gotta hop off.
Yourself.
Hey, yeah. So I am the Panicked Writer. I'm on Substack. I am under Red Pencil Script everywhere else on social media. That's my transcription business, and I'm just plugging away day and night. That's what we do.
Well, Michael went live 5 minutes ago. Curious to see what he says, but I don't care.
I can't see him anymore.
Lev, you should promote yourself.
Well, guys, I just Lev Remembers here on Substack, and right now I want to just promote our Wolfpack. This money is going to go to a cause. We're going to figure out the volunteers, but get your Wolfpack shirts and jerseys because we're just getting started. Michael Cohen, and I know we're laughing, but I want to be very serious on this point. Michael Cohen is no different than Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, or anybody else that is named in the Epstein files. The fact that Michael Cohen just happened to embed himself into this community because of the media, because they made him a darling, because they thought he was going to be good enough for them to take Trump down, they overlooked, and just like all these years, they overlooked with the Epstein survivors, the same way they looked the other way when it came to Michael Cohen. But the truth is, you're seeing Michael Cohen in his own words and his own way talk about exactly. So we're not going to stop talking about Michael Cohen because it's not about Michael Cohen. He is a key to this Epstein survivals. Yeah. It's like pulling on the string. Once one of those strings falls, the dam breaks, everything comes. So believe me, this Wolfpack is coming after you, Michael Cohen and Steve Bannon and Michael Wolff and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Howard Lutnick and Clintons and you name it. Your name is in there. We're coming after you because we're here for the survivors and that's all we care about. So come on. The truth has teeth, folks. So subscribe and follow. Thank you.
About accountability and everything you thought was a conspiracy. They're doing it in real time, man. They're doing it. They did it in front of our faces, and they're still doing it. It's all a cover up. The reason why I'm dressed up, which is hilarious, I must look like ass every day because literally, I must look so bad every day. I just put lotion on my face. It puts the lotion on the face. And I wore one shirt, and all these people are like, "Wow, well, you look good."
You do look fresh. You do look fresh. I want to say.
I'm co-hosting for Joy. Joy's in Chicago, so I'm joining in as a co-host just in case everything goes wrong. So watch at 6 p.m. because Joy has Hakeem Jeffries. I hope I'm allowed to ask Hakeem Jeffries some questions, and also Representative James. And they have a really great. I mean, we have some fantastic guests. So I'll be co-hosting Joy-Ann Reed's show at 6 p.m. today Eastern Time. Check it out. It should be fun, folks. Thank you all for watching. This is
Bye, guys.
Take care, Ellie. Happy birthday to your daughter. Enjoy.
Happy birthday.
Go subscribe to Panic Writer. Go subscribe to Lev Remembers. Go subscribe to Left Hook. There's specials on. If you want to become a paid subscriber, great, $3.75. If you have no money, it's okay. Just subscribe and share this news. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. And please, oh, please don't be a fascist.